Los Angeles never truly sleeps, and on Oscar night, it pulses with an electric energy unlike any other. The streets surrounding the Dolby Theatre are flooded with flashing cameras, designer gowns, and the excited chatter of fans hoping to catch a glimpse of their favorite stars. But while the world's attention is fixed on the red carpet, a different kind of watch is being kept a few miles away. At Fire Station 27, Captain Jake Holloway leans against the engine, sipping his coffee, half watching the awards show on the station's small wall-mounted TV. He's never cared much for Hollywood glamour. His world is built on adrenaline, instinct, and split-second decisions, not scripted performances. Then the alarm blares. Structure fire reported at Dolby Theatre. Possible entrapment. All available units respond. In an instant, the firefighters move. Gear is thrown on, helmets strapped, and within seconds, the trucks roar to life, sirens piercing the night as they cut through the city's bright and bustling streets. "Could be anything," Holloway shouts over the radio as they approach. "Faulty wiring, pyrotechnics gone wrong, even a minor accident. Stay sharp." But as they near the theater, something feels off. The air is thick, not just with smoke, but with something heavier, something unseen. The usual chaos of an evacuation, screaming, running, confusion, is absent. Instead, the crowd stands eerily still outside, staring at the entrance as if afraid to go near it. The theater doors are open, but the light from inside flickers strangely. Shadows move in ways they shouldn't, stretching unnaturally against the smoke haze lobby. Holloway exchanges uneasy glances with his crew before stepping forward. "Let's move," he orders, leading the way inside. The moment they cross the threshold, the noise from the outside world disappears. The muffled hum of the city, the sirens, even the distant chatter of onlookers, gone. Instead, the theater is unnervingly silent. Smoke curls lazily through the corridors, illuminated by the dim glow of emergency lights. "Anyone here?" Holloway calls out, his voice swallowed by the void. A soft whisper answers him, but not from any of the exits or hallways. It comes from the grand auditorium itself. The theater, despite the evacuation, is not empty. Figures stand motionless among the velvet seats, their faces hidden in shadow. Their presence is undeniable, yet something is profoundly wrong. They shouldn't be here. And then one of them turns. A man in a crisp tuxedo, his face vaguely familiar. Holloway has seen his picture somewhere before, maybe in an old Hollywood archive. The man smiles, tilting his head. "Finally," he whispers, "someone came." Holloway stiffens at the sight of the man. Something about him is deeply unsettling, not in an immediate physical way, but in a way that gnaws at the edges of reality. His tuxedo is crisp, perfectly tailored, but the cut of it seems wrong, outdated. His face is smooth, untouched by age, yet the grainy black and white memory of it lingers in Holloway's mind, like an old photograph come to life. Behind him, the other firefighters shift uneasily. McKenna, the team's newest recruit, mutters, "What the hell?" under his breath. "Sir," Holloway says, keeping his voice steady, "there's been a fire. We need to evacuate the building." The man in the tuxedo smiles, slow and knowing. "A fire," he murmurs, as if amused by the very notion. "Yes, I suppose there has been." Holloway's instincts scream at him to move, to grab this man by the arm and pull him toward the exit. But then he notices the others, dozens of them, standing in clusters throughout the grand auditorium. Some dressed in elegant gowns, others in suits that look like relics of a bygone era. The air around them is strange, thick and almost shimmering, like heat waves rising from pavement. Their faces are familiar in the way old Hollywood legends are, flickering memories of black and white films, golden age glitz and glamour. And then the realization hits. "These people are dead," McKenna whispers. Holloway grips his axe tighter, his pulse hammering. The theater is full of ghosts. A voice crackles through Holloway's radio, snapping the moment in half. "Engine 27, status report. What's the situation inside?" He raises the radio to his lips. "We've got people inside," he says carefully, not sure how to phrase what he's witnessing. But they're not evacuating. No signs of fire yet, but there's heavy smoke. Silence. Then the dispatcher's voice strained. Negative, Captain. The theater was fully evacuated 20 minutes ago. There shouldn't be anyone in there. A cold shiver traces down Holloway's spine. He glances at McKenna and the others, who are all hearing the same thing through their earpieces. The man in the tuxedo tilts his head. You shouldn't be here either, he says almost apologetically. And then without warning, the doors to the theater slam shut. A gust of cold air rushes through the room, extinguishing the dim emergency lights. The shadows deepen, stretching unnaturally across the velvet seats. Somewhere in the darkness, a woman laughs, a soft, lilting sound that echoes unnervingly. Holloway takes a step back. His breath comes out in a thin mist, as if the temperature has dropped. The firefighters' flashlights flicker. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the smoke shifts, and the ghosts start to move. The air inside the Dolby Theatre thickens, pressing down on Holloway's chest like an unseen weight. The figures in the dimly lit auditorium stir, their movements slow and deliberate, like actors stepping back onto a stage they once ruled. A woman in a shimmering gown, deep red, satin, old Hollywood glamour, glides toward the firefighters. Her eyes are distant, unfocused, as if caught between time and memory. You shouldn't be here, she murmurs, her voice barely more than a breath. Neither should you, Holloway counters, his pulse hammering. A sharp, dry chuckle sounds from deeper within the theater. The man in the tuxedo smiles again, but there's something behind it now. An exhaustion, a sadness. Oh, Captain, he says, stepping closer. We never left. Holloway grips his radio. Dispatch, we're locked in. No fire exits visible. Requesting immediate backup. Silence, then static. McKenna swings his flashlight across the room. The beam catches glimpses of faces, some eerily familiar, others completely unknown. But it's not their presence that sends a shiver down Holloway's spine. It's their expressions. Hope. They're watching the firefighters not with menace, not with anger, but with something else entirely. Longing. Captain, Diaz, the team's second-in-command, mutters, his voice tense. We need to move. Now. Holloway nods and gestures toward the side doors. The team advances cautiously, boots echoing against the ornate floor, their flashlight beams bouncing off golden embellishments and velvet drapes. The shadows flicker unnaturally. The figures don't block their path, but their eyes follow every movement. Then the whispering begins, soft, insidious, curling through the air like smoke. Names, places, memories that don't belong to any of the living. They never called my name. My final film, lost. I should have been remembered. They forgot me. McKenna stumbles, gripping the back of a seat to steady himself. Jesus, he breathes. They're forgotten stars. Holloway swallows hard. It makes sense. The Oscars celebrate legends, but history is cruel. Not everyone is remembered. These weren't just ghosts of Hollywood. They were the ones time erased. The firefighters press forward, reaching the side door. Holloway pushes against it. Locked. Behind them, the whispering grows urgent. Then a single voice cuts through the noise. Help us! The theater trembles, and the fire finally begins. The first thing Holloway registers is the heat. It rises fast, unnatural in its intensity, rolling through the theater like a living thing. Flames burst to life along the velvet curtains, racing across the ornate ceiling. But something is wrong. The fire doesn't crackle, it doesn't roar, it whispers. The same desperate voices that had filled the theater moments ago now hiss from the flames themselves, winding through the smoke. Help us! McKenna stumbles back, shielding his face. What the hell is this? Where's the source? Holloway grips his radio again, though a deep dread tells him what's coming. Dispatch, we have an active fire in the Dolby Theatre. Fire is spreading fast. Doors are locked. We need backup now. The response is static. And then, Captain Holloway, the building is clear. There's no fire. His blood runs cold. Diaz turns, pointing toward the main entrance. Cap, look. Holloway follows his gaze, and what he sees makes his stomach lurch. Beyond the theater doors, past the lobby, the world is still. Through the glass, Los Angeles continues on as if nothing is happening. The flashing lights of police cruisers, the murmuring crowd outside, the distant hum of traffic. It's all there, but not them. Their own reflections do not appear in the glass. "We're not in the real world anymore," McKenna whispers. "We're trapped." A new voice rises above the flames, a deep, resonant voice, strong with the weight of old Hollywood charisma. "We've waited long enough." Holloway turns. The man in the tuxedo stands at the center of the burning stage, his presence commanding, his face now unmistakable. A name flickers in Holloway's mind. An actor, once famous, long forgotten. Harlan Graves, a star of early Hollywood, never awarded, never recognized, lost to time. "We were meant to be remembered," Graves says, stepping forward. The flames curl around him but do not burn his pristine tuxedo. "The world left us behind. We are nothing but shadows now." The ghosts in the theater move closer, not threatening, pleading. "You came to save us, Captain," Graves says. "So save us." Holloway's grip tightens on his axe. The flames press in. The smoke thickens. The weight of history, of forgotten lives, of lost voices, bears down. Somewhere deep inside him, a terrifying thought takes hold. What if this fire can't be fought with water? The fire rages, but it's not like any Holloway has faced before. It doesn't spread naturally. It coils and twists as if waiting for something. The heat is real, the smoke thick, but the way it moves defies logic. This isn't a fire consuming a building. It's a fire consuming memories. Harlan Graves steps forward, his shadow stretching unnaturally across the burning stage. His eyes gleam, not with malice, but with something close to desperation. "Captain," he says, voice steady, "you can still help us." Holloway's instincts scream at him to run, to fight, to find an exit. But what exit? They aren't in the real world anymore. He looks around, his crew tense and waiting for orders. Then it clicks. Firefighters don't just fight fire, they rescue. And these ghosts, these forgotten stars, aren't haunting the theater. They're trapped in it. McKenna coughs into his sleeve. "Cap, what do we do?" Holloway takes a breath, steadying himself. "You said you wanted to be remembered," he says, locking eyes with Graves. "You're asking us to save you, but we can't do that unless we know your stories." The whispering stops. The flames pause, flickering as if listening. Holloway grips his radio. Maybe it won't work. Maybe they're cut off from the real world. But if he's right, if these souls are stuck because they were forgotten, then maybe, just maybe, he presses the button. "This is Captain Holloway, LAFD. I'm reporting a different kind of emergency." His voice is firm, clear. "To anyone listening, whoever's out there, we're standing inside the Dolby Theatre, surrounded by the forgotten legends of Hollywood. Names lost to time, actors, directors, artists who never got their moment." He steps forward, his voice rising over the roar of the flames. "Harlan Graves, lead actor in The Last Curtain, 1932, died in obscurity." A gust of wind rushes through the theater. The fire around Graves wavers. Holloway turns, pointing to the woman in red. "Margot Lane, nominated once, never won. Passed in 1957. No one left to remember her." She gasps. The fire pulling at her dress vanishes. One by one, Holloway calls them out. Their names, their stories, their forgotten triumphs. Each time the fire recedes, the theater begins to shift. The walls groan, the smoke thins, and the weight in the air starts to lift. The spirits, no longer faceless figures in the dark, begin to glow softly, their features sharpening. And then, a voice crackles through the radio. "Captain Holloway? Repeat, what's your status?" It's dispatch, and suddenly the exit doors burst open. Light floods in. "Go!" Holloway yells. His team doesn't hesitate. One by one, they sprint for the doors, the fire behind them collapsing inward, swirling like a great storm finally losing its strength. But as Holloway turns for one last look, Harlan Graves remains, watching and smiling. Then as the morning light touches the stage, he fades. The moment Holloway and his crew cross the threshold, the Dolby Theatre vanishes behind them. Not in flames, not in ruin, just gone. 1 second, they're running through thick smoke, the heat at their backs. The next, they're standing outside in the cool night air, blinking against the flashing lights of emergency vehicles. The crowd is still there, the press still snapping photos, the city humming like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Diaz coughs, doubling over, hands on his knees. McKenna stares at his soot-covered hands like he's not sure they should still exist. The theater behind them is completely intact, its marquee glowing like a beacon in the night. No fire, no smoke, no sign of anything at all. Holloway's radio crackles again. "Captain, do you copy? What's your status?" He lifts the radio to his lips, his hand surprisingly steady. "We're clear," he says, his own voice sounding distant. "No fire, no casualties." A beat of silence. Then, "Understood, Captain. Stand by for debrief." Holloway exhales and turns to his team. They meet his gaze, shaken but alive. Then McKenna stiffens. "Cap, look at the doors." Holloway turns. His breath catches. There, just inside the grand entrance of the Dolby Theatre, stands a single Oscar statuette. It gleams under the golden lights, untouched, pristine. And on its base, engraved in elegant script, is a name. Harlan Graves, a name that had never been called, until now. The wind shifts, carrying with it the faintest whisper, one only Holloway can hear. "Thank you." Then it's gone. The firefighters exchange looks, but none of them speak. What could they say? Some things aren't meant to be explained. Holloway looks up at the theater one last time. Tonight, the world will celebrate its legends, its winners, its stars. But in some way, in some space beyond time, the forgotten ones have finally had their moment. He nods once, then turns to his crew. "Let's go home." And as they climb back into the fire engine, sirens wailing into the Los Angeles night, Captain Jake Holloway can't help but feel, somewhere out there, a final curtain has finally fallen. Thanks for watching Brave Sparks. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more powerful and inspiring stories. Stay brave and we'll see you in the next one.